Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Jewel, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you, and especially to be here with these beautiful women, Eleonora and Jyoti Ma. And we're here to share with you deeper context for a video that you may or may not have seen out there in the world. It has gone viral. It's framed as a message from the Kogi, but we will be sharing more about it, where it's really coming from. And I'd like to introduce um, Jyoti and Eleonora, and then we are going to they're gonna frame the video for you, a little bit about how it came to be, and then we're going to show it to you. And then after that, we're going to dive in about all the message and how the messages came to be, and also what we can be doing in response to the message. So that's a very important part of this discussion. So thank you for joining us, whoever you are out there. Really happy to connect in any way after this as well. So I'm going to just take a moment of grounding. If you join me out there listening, just taking a moment and feeling the earth beneath you as we go into this discussion and listen to what will be shared, feeling that connection, feeling your own breath, feeling your own body, coming fully present. Because as a listener, you are also a participant. We welcome you. So thank you. And I'm really happy to introduce these two women now. Jyoti Ma, who is the vision keeper as of the Center for Sacred Studies. And she helped to convene the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers and also the Unity Concert. She founded The Fountain in order to restore an economic model based on reciprocity and collaboration and guided by nature and the sacred. She's a delegate of the Mother Earth delegation of United Indigenous Nations. And through her work, her economic, her social, her environmental solutions have developed. And she is creatively addressing the global challenges of our times. She's a force of nature herself. Really just so honored to be connecting with her. So welcome, Jyoti. And yeah, so happy to have you here. And Eleonora um, is here with us as well. And she's a cross-cultural advisor. She's a consultant, a translator. You reside in Oaxaca, correct? And a spiritual interpreter. She has a background in anthropology, social work, and decolonized yoga practice and teaching. And her work gets inspiration and guidance through ancestral knowledge and original teachings, working closely with elders and youth, allowing her to bridge and weave earthly based ways of prayer and instruction into loving action community, for community healing and education, and for our future generations. Eleonora is a woman of prayer. She stands for conscious stewardship and protection of the lands and waters of Mother Earth. And I'm so grateful to be connecting with you, Eleonora, as well. I feel like we are sisters and kindred spirits here in protecting our beautiful mother. And so I'm wondering so as I mentioned, we will be watching the video. It's a 5-minute video. And but before we do that, Jyoti and Eleonora, perhaps you can say a little bit about how the video came to be.
Well, I think it helps before everyone sees this message from the mother that you know a little bit about how it was gathered. And then I'm hoping we'll watch that and you can take that in, and then Eleonora can speak to more of how we understand the nature's law, mother's law, if you will, and how all of our work is about listening, deeply listening to that and taking the steps into action the way the mother law guides us. And we'll say much more about that after. But how did we gather this? First, it's through relations. So I've been walking and in Colombia with the four original peoples of Colombia that are seen as the elder brother for almost 13 years now. I'm a baby in the understanding still, you know. I'm a baby in the understanding of this of that way of life there. But I'm learning, and it's a deep, deep study, and the instruction is coming from the mamos, who are the masculine side of as and are spiritual guides and teachers for the original nations there, as are the sagas, which are the female guides and elders, spiritual leaders there of these four nations. Um, and so with that said, we had been into about a year of planning through the fountain and my team to because we were already beginning to do work in the north. We were already in connection and developing an educational program with the youth, the original youth peoples of the Baltic countries, their youth, and with the youth out of Europe, so they could start to come together and the youth of Europe could start to remember themselves by listening to this mother law and her teachings of original principles and so forth. We had been invited to the Arctic assembly there, which was going to bring about 3,000 world leaders together to look at climate change and a lot of other issues that they were needing to make steps and plans to work with and walk together globally. So all of that was in motion, and some time back also, the mamas had let us know that they were starting to get information that they would need to do work in the north. And then they got the instruction from the mother that they needed to go and they needed to open the first of four pillars. The first one would be in the Arctic. And so since things were already in motion, we were able to get resources and funding to bring them into that journey that they were being guided by the mother to do, so that they can assist her in her healing process. So some of the photos that you're going to see in this film were taken when we were on this pilgrimage. And so they first went in with Eleonora and us, another part of our small team that went there into Greenland first to walk the pagamentos. And the pagamentos are seen as earth payments, as a way of laying down things to bring restoration, to bring that payment back to the earth for that reciprocity of life to be generated. And then they would go to sacred sites and they would commune with the spirits of those sites to see what needed to be brought back into balance to bring that restoration so regeneration could occur. And then they did this pilgrimage that carried them into Iceland, then where the rest of our team met with them. And they continued this walk with the Pagamentos and going to the sacred sites. And in between, they were then brought into the Arctic Assembly. And they had been asked to give a message to the full assembly there. And after that moment, we were all together because and as to invited into a private audience with the Minister of the Environment out of Dubai, because COP28 was about to take place about a month later, 3 or 4 weeks later, in Dubai. And so the minister asked the Mamos if they would also bring a message like they had done there at the Arctic Assembly, if they would bring a message to Dubai. And so they said they would. I thought of one thing that was really interesting, which is kind of you know, when you're walking with the mamos and here they are, they've come out of their territory for the first time. They're in airplanes for the first time. They're in this sea of people from all over the world, very much of the West, and many colonized, but trying to break out of colonized thinking and really do good things for this earth. All of that's in motion. And the first day, as they walked through there that night, we had dinner and they said, you know, there's a lot of talk about climate change and heating ups, but don't they know that they're still putting wood on that fire, and that what needs to happen for resolution of all of this is to put the seed deep in the earth and water it. And I think that's something to ponder as we look at how we resolve the moment of critical choice we're in. So to go on with this story of the North, though, they were activating this first of three pillars. After the Arctic Assembly was closed, most of us were ready, needed to start traveling home. Our small team finished up with the Mamos at the volcano. And they told Minnie then that she was about to go into big movement, and that if they really, really listen, that her lava could flow under the cities and out into the sea instead of over the cities. And then they left and they went home. And 2 days after they got home, thousands and thousands of earthquakes took place. And then the volcano went off and she began to flow, and she's still flowing. And to this day, she has not harmed but a few buildings. She's saying something loudly to her in this action. I pray we can all listen deeply and hear her. So it's through this motion that I've just described that they were gathering messages from the mother herself about what we need to do in this moment of time. And then they called us to come to a call with them, and they said that the mother said that it's time to bring this message together as they had promised, so it would get to COP, and then it would need to flow out to the rest of the world. And so we had 2 weeks. Jeremy Wehan from Wisdom Keepers platform, and Eleonora is the voice on this film. We got busy with our team. They did a significant job in 2 weeks because we had to get it to COP. We brought it all back to the Mamos and let them listen to it to make sure that we had captured the message the way they wanted it to flow, and we had. So it did go to COP. We don't know if it got shown in the main assembly because we didn't hear back from that minister, but we do know that there were people there in Dubai, and this message did go out. The seeding with this message did go out into Dubai, and now it is flown and is flying still, flowing everywhere throughout this planet. It's gone viral, and it is stirring so much as that message is awakening things like never before. And we can talk more about that after you see her message as brought to us and gathered by the Kagaba, the Kogi Nation of Colombia.
Thank you so much for giving that background of the video. And Eleonora, do you have anything you would like to share in preparation for watching the video? I see your kitty cat. Oops, you're muted.
Just go ahead and watch the video. Thank you for the introduction, Jules.
Okay.
I am the mother. I am in the heart of the universe. Throughout all of time, I have never suffered from such heat or exhaustion. I I have endured for the last 1,000 years. Since that time, my natural connection points, my rivers, reservoirs, and internal waterways across all continents have been obstructed and are full of pollution. I cannot cleanse or recuperate. In December of 2023, I will start to rise and move and turn, sending this message out to all my children around the world. The storms, the earthquakes, the hurricanes, and the rise of the ocean will come. If the governments, the sultans, the princes, presidents, and kings of the world do not listen and act, in 2 years' time, only 30% of the earth will remain. I am the mother. I have always endured despite arrows being put in my eyes and in my body. I am not seeking to defend myself. I remain calm. But now, I must recuperate. There are 2 ways for me to heal. The first, I could take the law of nature into my own hands. This way, I will go in search of my medicine so I can cure my body, heal my energies, and all that I'm suffering from. There will be great changes upon the earth. You will feel me recovering. You will feel me moving. I will not do this to cause harm to you. It will mean I am recuperating my body. Or the second way. All my children will make the healing happen for me, so I will not need to do it myself. I will put my older children in charge of my recovery. They will go and search for my medicines, for my cure, so I can be healed and recuperate with their help. You, my children, must all be united and deliver what is needed for your older brothers so they can do the healing where I have been injured by you, my younger ones. Each one of the rulers of the world, of the governments of the world, must say, "Yes, Mother, I will stand with you. I will give my help to where you have been injured." I, your mother, have given you everything. When these changes start to happen, we will see whether you listen and act, or whether I myself will have to do what I must to recover the balance on Earth. If in just 6 months from now, by June 2024, you say, "Yes, we will provide what is needed," then my oldest children will be able to help cure my body. If this message is ignored, I will take the law of nature into my own hands, 1.5 years from that date. This is the message that the Mother has given, she who is in the heart of the world.
Okay, well, it's moving every time I see it. It's just each time I see it, there's a new element in there that I have questions about. So I'm very much looking forward to this discussion to talk about this video and the message. And let's begin with just asking about the message itself. What is being conveyed here?
Eleonora?
Thank you, Jules. Well, it's the mother's message. So it's the mother speaking through our older brothers. And this has been an ongoing message that so many of our indigenous original people have been bringing to us during the last decades. And the Kagaba people, the Kogi people started to bring this message through, I think around the 60s, 70s, they started to inform in the 80s. And it's an ongoing flowing message. So, because most of us, the younger brothers, we lost this connection. We lost this kind of relationship and this deep listening to the earth. We're not longer able to hear her speak or to hear her give us, the love and the advice that she's always pouring into her whole creation. And so this message here is part of an ongoing message that comes through consultations and sittings that our brothers do, Kagaba do often, because they have this relationship, they have this communication with the mother. And so through that consultation and through that, let's call it, for us to understand, download of things, the message comes through and then they sit with it. And then we got to be part of, this message was part of a longer message, which is one of many messages that have come through. But this is a message that comes through a consultation they do. And then our young messenger or translator brings it to us sitting in consultation with the fountain that we are, and we're working with the Kagaba since years back. And so that's how it comes to us. It comes to us as the voice, the deep voice of the mother, carried through our older brothers for us to deliver, to listen to, and to deliver further. And not to forget that the mother is always speaking, and she doesn't speak through Instagram or through videos or through reels. She's always speaking. But for us to understand what she's saying, sometimes we need this to be put into words, right? So this is part of the message that that was delivered in consultation with the Kagaba, and the Kagaba brought it forward to our awareness in consultation with the fountain, and that's how the voice of the mother comes through in this message.
And I just want to add one other thing, Jewel, if it's all right, to that, because many people that may be listening may be learning about the four original people of Colombia for the first time. And so I want to share a little bit, just a little bit of, you can go actually and watch a film called Aluna that will really give you more of the story of Colombia as given by them. And so I want to start you there. I also want you to know that the Mamos are the male, as I mentioned before, that they are the male spiritual leaders of their nations, and the Saga are the female spiritual leaders of their nations. So the Mamos are caught at birth and they're brought into the caves, and they do not see the light of day until they're 9 years old. They're brought into the caves because they are seen as walking with a seed of consciousness that can fully bloom and open. When they're brought out at 9 years old, they undergo some evaluations to see if that consciousness is fully opened. And if it hasn't, they go back into the caves till they're 18. And we've worked with some that were 28 years old in these caves. And so you can imagine, with that level of meditative understanding of how through your developmental years and all, that you were in that kind of concentrated relationship with Mother Earth in the womb of who she is, and that you come out then with this amazing ability to be reabsorbed into that consciousness, into that sourcing, which is where they get the instruction and bring it out. So it's coming from that kind of awareness that I want to also just shine a light on and bring everybody into an understanding about the ones that are catching her message.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you for giving us that background. And I have a question about the message. There's some very specific things in there, like June, and a year and a half from June, and 30% of the Earth. So these are like very specific elements of this message. I'm wondering if you would be willing to speak to that a little bit.
I can jump out, and then Eleonora, please bring more of your wisdom forward too. I was just on a call right before I came into your interview. And what she's saying in the message is, I've been carrying these maladies way too long. I've been telling you about these maladies. You haven't been listening. You need to listen, because I can no longer carry these maladies without bringing great harm to this creation, and I cannot let great harm come to this creation. So I've reached the time when I can't go any further without you assisting me, or I must pick up my own need to heal, and I'll do it myself. And that's going to bring some of these more perilous kind of moments that she's showing us. She's trying to be just really honest about where she is. If you wanted to take that to a more personal place, you could say, okay, I've got cancer, and I've been telling everybody I've got cancer, but nobody's seeming to listen to me, and the cancer is starting to grow, and I can feel it. I've got cancer, and I do things so that people will hear me, but they're still not hearing me. At some point, then I'm going to have to say, if you can't get the moment of choice I'm in, I'm so sorry. Then I'm going to have to do my own healing with this, and I do know what I can do to bring that healing about. So that brings it more to a personal kind of moment. So on this call I was in this morning, I was like, we were talking with like-minded people, and it was like, wow, they're still not waking. She, in the film, like she said, there will be floods. All of a sudden this morning on the news, I hear Dubai got 2 years worth of rain in one day. So they are in this flooding like they don't know about, because they're in the middle of a desert. The tornadoes that moved through the Midwest were in the hundreds this year. Unprecedented numbers like this. The earthquakes, the volcanoes that are going off. I mean, there's a long list. She's shouting, I can no longer carry these maladies. Are you listening? And so that's how I would respond to the time frame that she's giving us. Because when we got it, it was like, whoa, this is a really strong message. And some people would say, oh, Jyoti, if you put that message out, you're just going to stir fear, And we were talking to our elders. We were really following their guidance and their instruction with how we walk, because that's who we are as an organization. And one of our elders said to me, well, Jyoti, if fear is what comes up, then they need to embrace it and walk through it, because that fear is what's paralyzing us.
Amen. Oh my gosh, that is such an important statement that you just made. And yes, and I am, I can't help but think of the many prophecies, including the well-known Hopi prophecy about this time of purification, and that we are in the time of purification. And I just think it's a different framing than, say, the more, mainstream secular framing of what's happening is all about climate change, as we know. But how this message seems to be framing this is more about the mother is purifying, the mother is needing to cleanse, needing to cure herself, needing to take care, come back into balance. It's not so much about this one specific element called climate change. Is that correct?
Climate change doesn't exist as a concept, for original people. They were sharing with us as we walk the lands in the north. In Iceland, for example, there's big use of thermostatic heat, right? So you bring the the thermal waters up to help heat the cities, and it's kind of a good energy source. It's not too bad to the environment. But for our older brothers, it was a no. They were like, you can't do that. You know, we can't use these resources, even though it seems it's doing nothing. You're bringing out this beautiful maiden waters that are not ripe yet. Why would you bring them up? They have so much to do down there, and they're helping all the other massaging of whatever is birthing in the mountain chains in this next continent, and all these connections that we don't understand anymore because we are an extractive culture. Like, we are thinking for us by the moment, maybe a couple of years after, or maybe if we have, you know, descendants for our kids, maybe. But this view of actually being part of this creation and taking care of her, being her guardians or her stewards, or, you know, being allowed to be here in love for her, we lost that. And so, of course, when original people read into that, they can see how we lost it. We lost the connection. We are not listening anymore. And so, yeah, the mother needs to cleanse. She needs to cleanse from the atrocities that have been happening to her. Her whole body is full of arrows as she speaks. She's full of, you know, pollution, and we are abusing her. We are abusing our mother. And so climate change would be the mother taking care of her maladies, like really making these adjustments so she can recover her health. And yeah, we're reaching that point where she's doing that. And she will do that. I mean, she will go on. We are guests. And are we worthy and humble enough to be awakened into this beautiful creation? Can we step on her and be part of this creation in a humble and responsible way?
Yeah.
So that's the moment of choice, you know, and if I can add to that too, in response to your question, beautiful question, we could talk for a long time about it, but you know, it's like also all of our original people around the planet have been calling in because they too have a similar time frame with their messages. They too have been walking with a creation story, or many of them prophecies that speak about this time we're in. Those prophecies prepare us how to walk in this moment, and then they begin to instruct us. When I went down to Colombia in 2012, well, let's see, it was, yeah, maybe a little before that. She told us then through the Eagle Condor prophecy that the Mamos there in Colombia said that we were opening up the next part of this prophecy, which was about 13 years of cleansing. That 13 years of cleansing, if you look back at it, and in 2026 is what they say, when the ending will fall into the beginning. And it's important to watch the ending as it falls down so we stay informed, but to stay focused on that which is breaking through. And so we're in that kind of moment when you look back at these, and we're in the last 2 years of that 13 years deep cleansing. So when you look back at it and you see that each of the years marching forward have started to get deeper and deeper and deeper to cleanse this place that cut, where we were torn, where we were cut from that connection to Mother Earth herself. That happened, you know, in the late 1400s, that started the motion of colonization and materialism and this walk that we took, because we're at the end of a 26,000-year-old cycle. And what that end of that 26,000-year-old cycle is set by clocks in India that say from 12 to 1 is 2,500 years, from 1 to 2 is another 2,500 years. And so it goes all the way around that clock till the very end, which we're in right now, is called the Kali Yuga, where the ending is falling, so we can start the new beginning into the 26,000-year cycle. So when you start to listen to these different wisdoms from these old ways and these teachings and prophecies, they're coming now in a very strong way to help us know how to walk into the new dawn, into this new 26,000-year-old cycle.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting because you hear people saying, you know, oh, this is a natural cycle, the idea of climate change, and other people saying, no, this is human man-made. And really what I'm hearing you say is that it's both. There's a cycle, and that we've also aggravated the what's happening that would be happening naturally. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I think you've got to use it and look at it as a point of study. You know, I think that one of the shifts in our perception is when we come in with absolutes, then we ignore so many voices that are sitting at the table. I think it's a time for this level of discussion to happen for all people, and for them to say what they're seeing from their point on the table. Then I think we'll see more of the tapestry that's being woven.
Yeah.
And when they asked us what to do in response to this, you know, the way she gave it to me was, every one of you are carrying a thread that's been cultivated through your own roots and your own generational roots. And now you're here. Light your authenticity up. Let the power of who you are brighten itself so loudly that it merges then with the one sitting next to it, because that then brings us back into a resonance of oneness.
Yeah, wow. You know, there's so many threads there, and I'd just like to say one more thing about this climate change thing, and then we can move on. But uh, because I've been part of, you know, a lot of a wider movement that has been trying to respond to climate change, and I've become more and more concerned with the way we're framing it, as more of like this trauma response. And this, you were talking about fear when people watch this video, and people go into overwhelm and all of these things. And that's not the intention. And I think that's also happened with climate change, even to the extent where people deny anything happening because it's just too much to accept. And so this purification obviously is also a purification of our own beings, that we clear and heal our own traumas so that we can listen and remember mothers speaking to us individually as well. So I just I think the climate change conversation needs to shift, and it's kind of more couched in an extractivist, colonized way of seeing it, it seems. And what you're bringing with this message is no, we need to restore and repair our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that. And I'm just wondering if you want to say anything more about that, that's great. Or we can move on to talking a little bit more about anything you feel like is. I know you've shared already some of the background of how this message was created and your background with your relationship with the Kagaba Nation. If there's anything more you'd like to say about that, I'm sure it would be very helpful and welcome. And then we can get into talking about what we can be doing in response to this. So I think that is one of the most important aspects of this conversation in my view. So pass it back to either of you that want to share any more about your thoughts about the process of this, anything you want to share personally.
Well, in response to the fear that can get ignited when we hear, sometimes truth can resonate and we get afraid, right? But that's also part of the mystery of the whole creation. And so when we open and we are grounded enough to understand that we have a responsibility in this creation, then the fear can pass like trauma through the body and get released, you know, and then we can get into a prayerful action of, you know, a consciousness that is in motion, that co-creates with her and listens. And there's so much beautiful things and people doing amazing stuff on this planet as well. So I think that's the next step, and that's where we are waking up to, you know, from this, if you call it Kali Yuga or the destruction, you know, phase of it, into the birthing of the new dawn, if you want to call it like that. But I think that's always inside of us. You know, we have a responsibility to be upgrading and catching up to that, because we are being blessed enough to be alive right now. And yeah, when people ask where the message comes from specifically, and we already tried to talk about that, I would also like to share that when we further inquired, because we did, part of that answer is part of also a response we sent out to the list of people that signed up for this message and wanted to get a little bit more of information and more engaged in it. And it's beautiful because it came back to us saying that, yeah, the consultation came, but it came from the Tundra beings. So the Tundra beings were informing the whole consultation with the elders. And from that consultation, that's how she speaks. And that comes down and gets, you know, down into this council of our elder mamos. And then it gets down through our, you know, connection, our messenger that brings it to us. So that's how it comes down. It's not a specific person or an authority. This is our way of thinking. And this is our way of understanding. So it's just an invitation. I think the whole message is an invitation for another kind of, you know, opening to understand things in a different way, and an invitation to drop into the heart and feel what's really happening on our grounds and with our waters and where we live. And yeah, talking about the Hopi prophecy, it's pretty much that. And to be well, we need to be well, so we can be of service to her and walk in beauty on her, because we are her children. And if we misbehave, she will let us know, and she's doing that. That's what she's doing, with a lot of love. It's just immense love.
Yeah. What is this June date too? I want to just speak to that, but thank you for all that. That is, yeah, feels really, really important. Everything you just said. And
Well, the June date is when the solstice will happen.
mhm.
And the solstice is a very significant part of the cycle of life. You know, we just came out of an eclipse. You know, that's also a significant cosmic event, if you will. So Mother Earth isn't just here all by herself in the universe. You know, she's dancing with the sun and the moon and the stars and in the Milky Way and through the cosmos, where there's more links and more life form and more expression of this creation. So if we bring our lens, if you would, and we bring them from that single kind of space outwardly, then we get to see what happens where Mother Earth is sitting in her dance with life. And that's what's happened when astronauts have gone out of the sphere and for the first time looked down on that scene and then been humbled by it and saw how precious she was inside of that story of creation, and brought a reverence back with them when they came back here to walk on this Mother Earth. Significant kind of things that they brought, messages they caught inside themselves and put in motion after many of those astronauts came. And had that level of initiation, if you will, an awakening process. Mother Earth has a way of doing that if we allow her, let her in. So I think it's that moment of the cycle with the solstice that she's given us this message. She brought it out in November is when it started to move and gather itself. And then in December, it went to the COP. And then after that, it went flowing around the world, and it's touching and stirring many, many things right now. And what it's putting in motion is one thing around the solstice in order to respond to this timing, because Mother Earth is like the most supreme alchemist of all. And timing is an amazing element of alchemy. If you don't have that timing there, then the alchemy does not present the power of its moment. And so her timing is a significant thing in her healing process and in her request for that timing to heal. So she's given us that moment of the solstice, that summer solstice moment when original people around the planet will be in ceremony, all ceremony, and their whole communities are in ceremony. It's a moment of honoring the earth and the changing of cycle as we move into a period where the seeds that were planted in spring are now coming into fruition to feed the village, to feed life itself. So that's that moment of summer solstice that she's told us that's when it has to happen. So now I've been in a lot of discussions, Eleanor and I have, with a lot of different social platforms that are putting together a huge moment where we can collaboratively sing out to the mother through song and prayer and teachings and honorings of the mother herself in a resonance kind of note that she can feel and bring into herself. At the same time, I'm meeting with many other people of great resource that want to see how can we fill our mother pond, we're calling it, where all the resources for not only the Kagaba and some of the healing prescription they have given us, and we're assisting them in through the fountain in our community, but to many others that are holding also part of this healing process, to many of our elders that are in their own territories doing that healing work with their communities and carrying global initiatives to continue that healing work. So all of that is now being generated by this 5-minute video. It's making people say, I'm awake and I really want to say yes on this moment of this of the summer solstice.
So if there's enough of us saying yes, Mother will take a softer route. Is that how I should understand it?
That's what she tells us in the video. It's our choice.
Okay. There will be a link for people to donate to this very important work to support the Kagaba to continue to travel, as well as all the other work to buy their land back, to create some space, so because they have been losing their land there. So I'm going to encourage everybody listening to please give to the fountain, and you will see the link there.
I'll just add to that, because for those that maybe don't know, the instructions she gave us several years ago was that she needed her original caretakers to take care of her sacred territories, her sacred sites. And the main reason for that, so others can understand, is her sacred sites are like acupuncture points on her body. And so we have closed that down. We've put buildings on top of some of those sites. We've kept fences around them so that the original people that carry ceremony and ways to care for those sacred sites, so there is a constant balance and restoration process for her happening, have been kept away from that. So they've got the way to go in and take care of that site so it'll open itself and be robust again and help life start to circulate in a different way. So that's the reason that she's asking, first thing, please put our original people back in their original caretaker role with these sacred territories. And so some of those sacred territories in Colombia is what we're assisting with right now, for the Kagaba Nation to have the land back that was their land from the original times. And then it was stolen, taken away, sold. And later on, which started our work with the land trust there in Colombia, was that when they couldn't pay rent to live on their own land, then they were beaten, hospitalized, and sometimes their homes burned down. And that's going on around this planet. So there's also a current that's rising right now with many people having projects and initiatives that they call land back, but it's this ability to allow that land. Now, people get scared when that conversation comes up. Well, what if I live there? You're going to take my home. You know, that's that first survival instinct. But no, there's a way to collaboratively work with this, like we're doing with the farmers there in Colombia. There's many different creative ways to honor all peoples and still make sure that original caretakers have those territories that are acupuncture points in the right kind of care for her moment of healing.
Yeah. Oh, so important. And yes, and that's very important to support the work. And many organizations are doing a lot to try to help this happen, including the new one that we have called WISE, which I'll also leave a link for. But this leads us into what we can do in response. And so this is a big response right here, is to support Indigenous peoples everywhere, especially the Kagaba, who are losing their land, so they can continue to do the work as the older brother of humanity, to bring balance to the earth. But also, aren't they asking us in our own communities to find what is sacred in our sites in our communities that we can do? Because one of the things I know that happens when people see the state of the world, they get overwhelmed and like, oh, I can't do anything, it's too big. But if you talk about your own community, you know, you can go in your backyard and do a pagamento, right? I mean, what can people do in their own communities that can ultimately, I would imagine, have a ripple effect if everybody's doing this?
Eleonora?
Yeah, so as Jyoti just shared, part of the instruction that they have given, and that is, we hear this around the world, different nations speaking about the same, is in order for her to recuperate and create this shading, they talk about it as una sombra, like a shade that creates like a kind of environment where she can regenerate, because most of this sites, so to say, or sacred spots on the earth, and doesn't have to be a stone circle, it could be your spring, right? All this sacredness needs to be taken care of, and the ones that can do that, or that have the instruction on the original lands, are the people that speak that language of that land. So they were also encouraging, I mean, that doesn't mean that we or the people that are in lands that are not their ancestral lands can't do it. I mean, everybody can do it, but it needs to be a collaboration and an honoring of the original people of the land that carry the codes in the vibration of their language, of the speech, of the songs, of the ancestral knowledge that is linked to that ecosystem, for that ecosystem to thrive. So what's calling upon here is we need to collaborate. We need to work together. And this honoring of her and her original instructions needs to be repaired. And so that's the way that the mother law will come into harmony, and because she's the law. There is no other law. All the other law is man-made law, came later. It's not the law. The law, it's in her hands. There is nature's law. There's a lot of initiatives. I know in North America, there's a lot of tribal initiatives to get the nature's rights back. And there's things happening, you know, everywhere, in Colombia, in Aotearoa, in New Zealand, and different places of the earth, to reinstall this kind of respect. And it needs to be collaborative, but we need to honor the original people that were there, that took care of these lands from the beginning, because they are the ones that are going to carry out that instruction. So yes, we can do a lot, but we need to start there. We need to look around, see who's there, what happened on that land, and to kind of help that healing. And then from there, it will start to move.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. It's very important that we are doing this collaboratively and that we all learn what it means to be indigenous to the earth, to be her children, and honoring those whose lands, who, like you said, I hadn't heard of it that way, the codes, the ancestral knowledge in their bodies. That's beautiful. Thank you for that. So so solutions, any other things that we can do? I mean, we talked about healing ourselves, working on our own traumas, so that we can better serve. Is there anything else we can do in our communities? I'm part of this movement called Transition Movement, which is very much about all of this, although we are, still fairly new, but it's about localizing communities, kind of unplugging from the wider corporate consumer grid, and remembering how to live in a healthy way with each other. So bringing this element into the transition movement, I feel is so essential, to begin to reskill and call on our indigenous land stewards to help us reskill and remember how to treat the land, because every land is a little different with what it needs and how it's the stories that it holds.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's like we have to humble ourselves. We got to have a moment of just humbling ourselves, and in our Western mind-driven way, we want to fix it. But it's not about fixing it. So if we can just humble ourselves enough to let go of that kind of preconceived idea, then we can let our mind get still and we can sit with the earth and with some of her original people, and we can listen. We can listen first. And once that starts to get restored inside of us, that point where we can really deeply listen, then she starts to show us what she needs. And she may need, inside your community, she may have a river that's really in trouble. Then go sit and deeply listen and respond and relate to the river, the being of the river. Let her tell you what she needs you to do. She may need you to undam her higher up, so that the pulse of who she is can move with more force of life. She may need you to go and clean things, and so that as that cleaning of her waters transpires, then she begins to work in that interconnected way Eleonora was talking about in our first discussions, because there's an interconnected web of life that runs through everything, us included. So when we start to clean some of those pieces, like the water here, the river here, then the ecology itself, the natural ecology itself, can start to restore itself. There's a short movie, and I'm trying to remember it, but if you find it, you could put this in the links that you send to those that'll be listening. I think it's called, it's about the rivers and the wolves. And I'll try to remember the title in a minute, but I was so struck by it when I first saw it, because it was in Yellowstone National Park and the wolves were gone. And they had been killed off because they were seen as predators, that they were going to get the caribou. But when they further study happened, they could see that when the wolves were there, they selected the caribou that were ill, or something was not right with their physicality, and those were the ones they took. The wolves did. That made a healthier caribou family. But because we had a preconceived idea and because we wanted to fix it, we went in and we killed and shot all the wolves. That threw off the natural ecology of that territory. Once they started bringing the wolves back in, then the caribou started going to different parts inside that ecology. And as they left, the natural herbs and plants and started to restore itself naturally, because it was there in the natural foundation of that ecology before we went in and started to fix it and disturb that natural ecology because we weren't deeply listening. So this can be restored in much quicker time than we realize. And I think one of those moments of she was showing us how that could happen was when the pandemic came and everything stopped. No more planes or people on cars. And I mean, everything stopped. We were put in our houses. And then what did we see? In some countries, the pollution went so quickly that mountains were there that they had forgotten were there. In some places, the water cleared and cleaned itself in just a few days so that the dolphins could swim back in some of the canals and present themselves that they hadn't been in a long time. The deer would walk from across the roads and they were starting to follow their own natural migration of that territory. So she showed us how quickly she can restore herself if we'll give her a moment to do so.
Yes, yes. Being in the healing world, you're reminding me about how natural healing happens but modern medicine has the same attitude that you mentioned about people going in and killing the wolves. Let's throw a bunch of prescriptions at you and do some surgeries or whatever. And the body just wants to heal. The body wants to heal. So the earth wants to heal. And just like the wolves, we're kind of a keystone species, so we're needed, but we're needed in a healthy state. We need to heal. So thank you for that. And just so grateful for your work, for everything that you're doing, both of you, for holding the ground, holding, you've got like literally a stake in the ground for the mother, like just, and holding strong with this message that is continuing to go out, and I'm sure will get even bigger as we get closer to June. And I'd love to hear about any events that you will that people can participate in June, or anything else as well. So let's before we close, I'd love to hear any last things that you feel like still need to be said about this message, and anything else, any of your thoughts. The floor is either both of you.
Well, I'll just say, I hope you're going to send out some links to some of these things we're talking about, because then I think people will, you can bring it in and allow yourself to digest that so that you can feel it. And if it works for you, that's the most important part. The little video that you can watch on YouTube is called How Wolves Change Rivers. And you can go to YouTube and put that in. It'll tell you about how this natural ecology can restore itself. And some of the teaching that came after this message, which Eleonora was talking about, we can give you a link. Eleonora can send that to you, Jewel, and that way you can let people have the fuller message, because they gave some of the instruction about what can you do as coming from her, the Mother Earth herself.
Great, wonderful. It will be all there with this recording, including the donation link for the fountain. And anything else? Eleonora, any more thoughts? Any last thoughts? Whoops, you are muted. Let's unmute you. You're still muted.
There we go. So grateful for the time and the space, Jules. And just as a reminder that sometimes also doing nothing is doing something. Sometimes we just need to get out of the way and be quiet, And that doesn't mean we're not going to engage in any action, but action can be read in different ways. And also as an awareness that as these sites and as these ecosystems regenerate, some of our original people need to be there. We don't need to travel anywhere to get instruction or we just need to stay where we are, we will get the instruction we need to also help this restructuration of the beauty of her. And I'm saying that because mostly sometimes in our Western mind, we just need to go somewhere to grab, you know, the medicine or the teaching, or we want, that's still extractive, right? So we just stay, we listen, and we know that as we listen and sit, it will be shown for us. And sometimes it's in our backyard, you know. So just having that said,
Thank you.
thank you.
Really important. Slowing down and just being, just like we did during COVID, and allow nature to heal and allow ourselves to heal and do what is asked of us by the mother. Listen deeply and gather the yes for June. And maybe mother will receive a big enough yes that together we will be able to get through these next couple of years without too much turmoil. All right, well, thank you, and just big gratitude again for the work that you are doing and that we are all doing. And thank you to the listeners who have traveled with us through this little session. And please do see the links, and we welcome any feedback, any questions, and send prayers to all of you out there. Thanks again. And
thank you, Jewel, for having this good thought and inviting us here today to sit with your listeners. I hope that we have allowed enough seeding that it will land in many good places around this planet, and you will all water it and bring that seed to fruition. May it be so, may it be so, may it be so. Thank you.
beautiful last words. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.